Hi there, I'm Joy, and today I would like to talk to you about a conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. So this is an interesting conjunction because the energies of Saturn and Jupiter and the agendas and perspectives and approaches are so different from each other. And I actually have this conjunction in my natal chart, so I have a little bit of experience with it. And we have a conjunction coming up fairly soon, within the next year, of Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius together. So the collective is going to get to experience this energy here on Earth. So let's take a look at what Saturn and Jupiter each are. So Saturn is the teacher of wisdom, essentially, right? So Saturn can be difficult earlier in life and give us a lot of challenges and a lot of restrictions, limitations, things that Saturn gets involved in. There's just like difficulties with them, and it can be a very frustrating energy earlier in life when you're trying to do things in areas that are impacted by Saturn. And Jupiter is kind of the opposite. It's very expansive. It brings good luck and fortune and opportunities and just a sense of expansiveness and optimism. And when they get together and their energies combine, something really interesting happens, because in a way they soften each other, but in a way they also amplify each other. And what ends up happening is a lot of times you end up getting good luck and bad luck together, like never just one at a time. So when something hard happens, when you encounter struggles in life, there's also like something that happens that makes it not quite so bad. There's like it ends up being a stroke of luck in the end somehow. And often the things that seem like the worst things that ever happen to us end up being the best things that happen to us. And we have this this frustration because every time we're trying to expand in a certain direction, we've got this optimism. Saturn comes in there and just like, man, just really shows us any error in our way very quickly and harshly. And at the same time, we retain that optimism and that quest for higher understanding from Jupiter. So even when things are frustrating and difficult, we quickly see ways to make the most of the situation, and we can see the silver lining in the situation. We are always seeking too, people with this conjunction, or anybody with their Jupiter, they're always seeking, they're always trying to grow and expand and develop a personal philosophy so they can act with faith in how things work, how life works, faith in the universe. And Saturn just does not make that easy at times, because while we develop our worldview, same as anyone, Saturn's right there to show us all of the flaws in it. And despite that, we continue. So there's all this trial and error. We make mistakes, we learn from them, and we move forward. So we have a lot of resilience, because no matter how hard things are, we always know that at some point it's going to get better. At some point, the situation is going to change. At some point, we'll know what we need to do. So the optimism just doesn't go away. Like even in the face of enormous difficulties and setbacks, that optimism is still there. Like it's going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. I don't know how, but somehow it's going to be okay. And there's also with this aspect, this understanding that failure is part of the process of success. Like, okay, so I tried doing this thing like 5 different ways. None of them worked. However, something's going to work, and it's the only way I'm going to be defeated is if I stop trying. You know, if I can learn from each of these failures, then I am just building future success. I'm learning how to do it better. So for example, you know, if you go on dates with a bunch of different people and like none of them are turning out, like, like you're not clicking with any of them, there's this understanding that even though that's frustrating and annoying and difficult and exhausting, yes, dating is just the process of discovering what you like and don't like. You know, this is the process. This is what we're doing here. And somewhere out there, there are people that would be great for me. It's just a matter of becoming clear about that. And Saturn's great for this just in general. Like Saturn shows us the issues with what we're trying to do so that we can do it better, essentially. Saturn's a lot like the sensei in like a martial arts movie that's like really hard on a certain student, and finally the student says, why are you making this so difficult for me? Like, why do you challenge me so much? And the sensei tells him, it's because you have so much potential. I see so much potential in you, and if I'm really hard on you, then you'll become a much stronger martial artist as a result. So Saturn's a lot like that, and we do later in life reap the benefits of this. Any area impacted by Saturn, we have a lot of wisdom and a lot of clarity and like realism that allows us to actually accomplish things and build success in that area. So Saturn's kind of like a late bloomer planet, like we have all these setbacks early on, but then later in life, we have a lot of success in that area because we've developed so much wisdom through all of these challenges that we've experienced over the years. So when it comes to Saturn conjunct Jupiter, we welcome hardships as lessons because Jupiter's always looking for the higher meaning in everything, right? So with Jupiter conjunct Saturn, it's like, okay, I'm experiencing these issues, like, what lesson is in this for me? And this is something that not just people with this conjunction or with aspects between Saturn and Jupiter do, like anybody can do this, but it comes more naturally to people who have aspects between Saturn and Jupiter. So, you know, okay, so I'm really struggling right now. What is the lesson here for me? What is the opportunity? How can I grow from this, basically? And another thing about Jupiter is that it's how we develop our personal philosophy in life, right? And with Saturn there, we learn how our worldview, how our personal philosophy is not accurate. Like Saturn will show us like, okay, this is how you think the world works. This is why you're wrong. This is where you're wrong. And then as it gets challenged, it gets refined over the years and it ends up being really strong later on and really wise. And what else? Basically, all of this amounts to a lot of opportunities to grow as a person. Jupiter's all about personal growth, right? And we also develop a very strong foundation for our faith in the universe through all of the ways that our worldview gets challenged. It gets broken down and built back up stronger each time. And another thing with this, and this starts earlier, you know, like later in life, we have this like really strong worldview, but even before we go through all of those challenges that take out the things that aren't accurate and allow us to develop a more accurate and functional worldview, even before all that happens, we have this real sense of responsibility related to our worldview. And it becomes this like point of morality for us. You know, like a lot of times people, you know, everybody's got their worldview, right? And a lot of times it doesn't impact people as strongly as it does for people with this conjunction because people with this conjunction are going to feel this sense of responsibility, like their concept of how to be mature is directly related. It's the same thing as their worldview, as their personal philosophy. So for them, you know, if they act in a way that is not in accordance with their concept of how the world works, to them it feels like they're doing something wrong, something that you know, it feels like a moral failing to them. It's a big deal. So these are people that take their worldview very seriously and work very hard to honor it, even in the face of all of these hardships that are showing them why it's not accurate. And let's see here, what else? One of the things that can happen with this is there's this, and this is more so later, as the gifts that Saturn gives us, these lessons that Saturn gives us are really adopted strongly, and you know, we can really make the most of them. So like later in life, basically, is that we end up with this really grounded optimism. So like, you know, it comes out even when we're younger, when we're talking to people. So if somebody's talking to us and they're being really optimistic about some opportunity or their worldview, we'll answer them with warnings about it. Like, okay, but you got to remember this and watch out for that. But if people come to us and they're, you know, full of warnings, we'll respond with optimism. So we're not trying to be contrarian, you know, we're not trying to just like argue with them. What we're doing is responding to them in the same way we respond to ourselves. And, you know, that's what we all do with everything. But in this case, you know, responding to pessimism with optimism and optimism with pessimism is how we balance it out for ourselves. And that's how we can end up with this optimism that's really grounded in reality. And like, while we know that we're going to face difficulties, we know that it's going to be okay in the end. One way or another, it's going to be okay. And, you know, so that's just how we experience it. Another thing that can happen, another way this aspect can show up, is that we find ways to take major risks that make it more safe. So, like, for example, you know, you might engage in a sport where you could get hurt, but you make sure that you have all of the safety equipment checked and that it's all completely the way it needs to be. It's all in good order. And, you know, any optional safety equipment, you're going to be pretty likely to want to use that, because you can see that while it's necessary to take risks in life, and it's better to, you know, it's better to live and fail, and it's better to like go out and do something and risk, you know, something bad happening. There are ways to minimize that risk, like good, effective ways that are very reasonable and, you know, make it a lot safer to go ahead and do the thing, take the risk. And when it comes to, let's see here, higher education is another theme that we see a lot with Jupiter. And there can be some difficulties with higher education for somebody with Jupiter conjunct Saturn in their natal chart. And it's possible that later in life they'll go back to school. And, you know, that can be one of the ways that this manifests. And, you know, as always, there are many, many, many different ways this can manifest, and it depends on everything else in the chart, but that's just one possible manifestation. And, you know, in the end, this aspect, this conjunction, leads to a great deal of wisdom and many, many life experiences, because even in the face of all of these hardships, there's this drive to just keep going, just keep trying. There's this resilience. So the result of that over the years is many, many, many things that have been tried and have turned out poorly in a way. And yet these valuable experiences like taught us so many things. So somebody with this conjunction, by the time they're 40, they may have more life experiences than, you know, most people would in 2 lifetimes, just because they've tried so many things and had so many experiences. So that's about the extent of it. That's my thoughts for now. I would love to hear what you think. What are your experiences with this conjunction? Go ahead and leave them in the comments. And if you find that this video is useful to you, go ahead and share it with others if it feels right. Thank you very much.